Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Thursday, and we're at the Bayam Darkecha. Hope to finish the section on eating today. We're about to start the sixth and final section, but there's a footnote that we didn't get to yesterday. It's on the lower side of page Mem Dalet. It's talking about you got to do what you can, even if it's only going to be small successes and not big successes. And let's just do this footnote. It's very important. Samach Vav. Ki af shebavadai. Sir, can everybody hear me?
Is it recording? Yeah, it's fine.
It's not. It's not. You're not the one I'm worried about right now. It's Shlomo and everybody else.
Yes, Rabbi.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Ki af shebavadai adam tzarich lishtadel bavoda so at shesliach. Certainly, a person has to make efforts in his service until he succeeds. Mikol makom, still in all, im lo zach alecha v'lishos piktusha karoi v'shleimus. But if he isn't able to reach it with perfection, v'umachnias atzmo, but if he humbles himself before Hashem, v'sameach bechelko, and he's happy with his portion of success, okay? That brings him to enter into being a trusted servant, which will lead us to what next week's topic will be, to nullify oneself and surrender oneself with true cleaving to Hashem. What does that mean? In other words, if you're willing to admit that you can't be such a big success under certain circumstances, that's a good thing. Why? Even though the main desire of Hashem is Hashem really wants you to succeed and win the battles that you fight for Hashem. And Hashem wants you to overturn the physicality into spirituality. Still in all, what's the real deep goal in service of Hashem? To know that everything comes from Hashem. To live in that reality, and everything is from him. Now, therefore, so dafka, when you don't succeed as much as you want to, if he still remains loyal to Hashem and doesn't leave the service, in which you've experienced failures and you haven't been as good as you thought you were, and the answer is to give up, you're never going to be spiritual. But the verse says, I'm not going to give up. It shows you're not looking for successes. But that he's a trusted servant. Obviously, we want success. But as we said yesterday, success breeds arrogance, Of course, we want success. But the main thing is not success. The main thing is being a true servant to Hashem. And therefore, even if you fail, and you're not so much of a success, and maybe your future will never be to be a massive success. At the end of the day, you're never going to be a big success. You're going to be an itty bitty, barely accomplish anything in life. But if that's what you want, that shows you're a trusted servant. Some people just, don't seem to have that stamina, aren't able to hang on. But if you don't give up, even if you're a pitiful failure, but you still have minor successes, and you're just trying your hardest to get these minor successes, you're still a trusted servant for Hashem. That shows you essentially cling to Hashem, because you realize that your failures are still important to Hashem. You're still feeling that your main essence is with Hashem. That doesn't depend on anything else. It's like a son who, by definition, by his creation, is connected to his father. Even though he doesn't have success, when an Ishmael is not broken, he doesn't leave Hashem. This is a very deep idea he's been talking about at the end of yesterday's class and today's class. We are so poisoned by success. And we want to be successes in life. And that's not what you want to be in life. You don't want to be a success. You want to be a trusted servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's all you want to be. So if you fail trying to be a trusted servant, but then you don't give up, that's the key. And you keep trying, but you're really trying, but then you fail. You're still a trusted servant to Hashem. And that's very special to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the bottom line, is that you're thinking of Hashem all the time. Now, hopefully, with time, you'll improve more. But there could be some people. Now, as opposed to the guy says, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm a chasr and I'm not interested anymore. I'm tired of all this guilt. I'm tired of all these losses. Then you're saying, I'm tired of Hashem. And that's the worst thing you could do. To be happy, a happy loser, and not even thinking that you couldn't be better. Better to say, I'm going to try. And if I fail, I won't let it depress me. I will just know that I can try again. As long as I have life, I can try. Okay, we come to the sixth and final, no, there's two more. Sixth subsection. It's furthering this idea. La alos madreg midarga ladarga. To ascend from level to level. Okay, now we've talked about don't let the failures get you down. Even a good thought, but now that was dealing, Hey was dealing with failures. Vav is going to deal with success. How do we look at something? We could, Baruch Hashem, have some success. We're having our successes with making one bracha today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So today I tried to work on my apple. Baruch Hashem, I had 2 or 3 really good brachas today. And my apple, I tried at least for the first 3 bites to close my eyes and just enjoy the bites. So I did 3 bites.
I'm working on not the
And I made sure to swallow the full thing first before I took the next bite. So 3 that I was not as controlled. But you got to be happy with that success. Those successes, it comes slow. Umitzat sheni, but on the other hand, Adam shehi a person who really toils and works hard, and he's achieved. He's been worthy of achieving a level. Must speak. You shouldn't feel that's enough. He should continue to move from level to level. He shouldn't be satisfied with the fact that he eats with a little bit of sophistication. Or other aspects of sanctifying his service Hashem. But all the time, yisametz lalos od va'od, strengthen yourself to go higher and higher. Ki tzarich, because you need. You shouldn't remember all the Torah and services you did until now. In other words, don't sit on your laurels. But reflect every single day. That today's eating should be with a little bit more holiness and a little bit more cleaving to Hashem. Because every day you have to improve with a little more. With another step. With another level. Now, in Samach Zion footnote, he's going to note that we seem to have, the author seems to have contradicted himself. This paragraph seems to contradict what he just said before. Where there he said, you have to be happy with what you have, right? He said, be happy with what you have, with a little success. So he says, move on. So he says, you really need both. It's the real cleverness. Litfos as beis hatztonim biyachad, to hold on to both sides at the same time. Uladas, and to know Mosai Ros Hashem Yisbarach she'eshaf alos odvod, to know when is it Hashem's will that I should yearn to go higher. Bisara vama, with a storm and effort. Im shivas gedos, with great yearnings. I have to know when to demand of myself and when to give it all I got. At the same time, on the other hand, most I need certainly stop when I have to be happy with the little that I have. Also, and to make that important, and be happy with that. And to surrender to God's will. And not to look on what I didn't do. So this is a balancing act. And that's like the famous statements of many great rabbis, that you have to have two messages in both pockets. One pocket, you have the message, Bishvili, Bara Ha'olam, Hashem created the whole world for me. And then the other hand, you have to say, Vanochi Ofer V'Ever, I'm just dust and ashes. You have to know when to have bold arrogance for Hashem. You have to other times be humble. Same thing here. You have to know when it's time to push and when it's time to be satisfied with what you have. Hashem has created human being to have two different feelings of situations. Something a person feels, I can move and I can move forward. Then you have to exploit that for Lawrence Kadima to run further. Sometimes something you feel a weakness and you're falling. Then you have to be happy with your portion. You have to do what you can. That's human nature. You have both of those feelings. You have to know how to contend with them and manipulate them and exploit them properly. And both sides are correct. They're not a contradiction to each other. On the one hand, a person needs to do more and more. To give HaKadosh Baruch Hu pleasure. On the other hand, to surrender before Hashem, to be happy with what Hashem gives you. Because remember, at the end of the day, Hashem can decide to help. Sometimes you're working hard and you don't know if you're going to make it. At the end of the day, when you have success, how did you get the success? Every success comes from Hashem. So some days Hashem gives you the success, sometimes he doesn't. Again, that doesn't blow off our responsibility. If we don't try, we'll never get success. You're trying. Sometimes you try, it works. Sometimes you try, it doesn't work. Hashem helped you a little more. Maybe you dive a little better. Hashem helped you a little more. If Hashem doesn't help you, then realize Hashem didn't help me today, and he's happy with me the way I am, and I'll just keep trying. It's remember, it's always the long ball. We're playing the long game. Don't be focused on the short game. That's a real problem. Everybody just reacts immediately. The whole world today is reacting so lunatically of what happened yesterday in the world, which I will not talk about today. I'm saving it for the drush tomorrow. What? Saving it for tomorrow. See how we're all being manipulated because we act hastily. But anyway, let's not talk about that. Seventh and final subcategory on page Memvav. Yishtadol lecho besudas mitzvah. Make an effort to eat mitzvah sudas. Isa Bazar Kodesh. The Holy Zohar says, Shebesuda mitzvah ein liyetzer hara chelik. A yetzer hara has no portion in a mitzvah meal. Behind it, what does that mean? Shesudas mitzvah eina magbiras achelik hamisav shebenemesh abahemis. When you're eating a suda mitzvah, the animalistic drives aren't so strong. Shebederech klal in general mischazekes. Usually it gets stronger in a meal. He betavosa in its loss. Usually, when you're having a meal that you don't have to eat, remember, there's meals you're not allowed to eat. The food's treif. Mitzvah meals, it's a mitzvah to eat, like at a simcha, a legitimate simcha, Shabbos, then Rosh Chodesh, whatever, where it's a mitzvah. And then there's Rishos. Every day it's optional. You can eat or not. So the Yetzer Hara usually works when it's the optional meals. That's when he really gets you. The mitzvah meals, he's not as powerful. So when you had a mitzvah meal, okay, you don't have all that to contend with. And that's how you could purify your animalistic soul. That's when you can be saved from the powerful grip of the Yetzer Hara. The way it gets you is by grabbing you with permitted eatings, without kedusha. Today's lunch, how much did he grab you at lunch? It's not an aveira, no mitzvah. How much did he grab you? How much did he make you a bal taiva? Okay, umamela. But once you're at a mitzvah meal, where he has less ability to hit you. Now, of course, that unfortunately, modern Jewish people have what's the word I want to use here? Have undermined what a Sudas mitzvah is all about. They've made the Suda the whole thing. Remember, it's a Sudas mitzvah. Construct pronoun. Sudas, a mitzvah, a meal of celebrating a mitzvah. Not that the Suda is the mitzvah. You had a bris. You were zoicha to bring a child to the bris. So you make a meal to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you had a meal. But it's not an excuse to now be a chazer and outdo the next person. See, obviously, if everything, all the plans for this Sudas mitzvah are way beyond what you're supposed to do, then you've defeated the purpose of the Sudas mitzvah. So that's why it's kind of hard for us to envision now you go to weddings that are way over the top, how that's a Sudas mitzvah, where it's based on excess. So that's why, not all Sudas mitzvahs are created equal, unfortunately. But anyway, if you are at a real Sudas mitzvah, then what will happen is, since the forces of Taiva aren't as strong, therefore your whole essence of your midos and your mind and your thoughts in holiness will change for the better. Your heart and intellect will be opened up to Torah and service Hashem. Because everything depends on your holiness of how you eat. So therefore, you want to pick your meals wisely. There's many tzaddikim. They wouldn't eat any meal during the weekday. Rak b'sudas mitzvah, only a sudas mitzvah. So how do you do that? You can't have a wedding every day. So it's simple. Learn a masechta every day. What? A masechta every day? Well, when you start when you're young, if you know them well, I bet you could read a secular book in a day. Think of a secular book you read that you really enjoyed. Okay? That you really enjoyed. You know what? Tell a young boy to read a Sports Illustrated magazine a second time. No problem. And if the fourth or fifth time, they can fly through it. So if you know a Masechta in Shas, why can't you just, if you know it, believe it or not, if you really know it, you could do it. You could learn 5-6 blot an hour. You can, if you really know something well, you could just go right through it. And you make a siyum. So many tzaddikim, they make a siyum every day. Now, what's the food following? Learning a lot, obviously. That's a good advice to have holiness in eating. Now here he's going to say, I can't learn about it, but there's small masechtas. Maseches tzitzis besuda. If you look in the back at certain tractates, small little masechtas, that I wouldn't say it's a siyum that you could break your fast on Erev Pesach siyum, okay? But these are siyums that are small enough that you can accomplish it. There's little masechtas in the back of some of the Gemaras. It's not going to be in the art scroll. You have to look at a regular Gemara. There's a masechta called Maseches Tzitzis. Ki masechta zuhi kitzar b'yos is very short. It's a good piece of advice. You want your suda to be a sudas mitzvah. Well, that'll take some time. Yeah, well. Because when you make the siyum, the whole food gets elevated. It's holy. If you get used to of a certain time by Hagazu with such a conduct, Shekol Sudasas, meals on the next page. It's only Sudas mitzvah. You're a bachush, you will mamish feel. How are you going to feel? You're going to go up and holier. Because your body, your flesh, your blood are all sustained and grow through the holy eating of a Sudas mitzvah. So and there were many Gedolim who lived that way. Many Gedolim who lived that way. Okay, we got 2 footnotes. I want to get it all in. Finish this by the way. Samaches. What about you finish a Masechta of Mishnayos? Pirkei Avos. Okay, or a book of Navi, the book of Yoshua. You see in the Shalish Chuvas of the Sefer called Helaflecha Shlomo or Shlomo Kluger or Shlomo Kluger. Shikadeli curses it. What do you have to learn to have a Sudas Mitzvah? Shlomo Leflei Tuma. You got to learn it like regularly. But often Shalimuda Nimshach Esasman. That it takes time. Now, normally you see him, it's got to take time, it takes a number of weeks, etc., etc. If you learn fast, to make a siyum, ain't lasses a siyum of sudas mitzvah. You can't make a sudas mitzvah out of that. Erev Pesach, you don't want to fast. He says you can't just whip off a masechta like that. You can't just knock it off. You got to be learning real learning. However, that's what's only said by Mishnayos and by a Sefer Navi. Avagavi Maseches Gemara, Bavli Yerushalmi, any tractate of the Babylonian and Jerusalem Talmud, he writes, Shafim Lamed B'Miyuchad Kedeasim. Even if you're learning just to make a siyum, Mutar B'Dinu Lasso Siyum Pesach. You can make a siyum in Erev Pesach. If you're learning it fast, you have to learn properly and fast. And here I find a big insight in the sefer called Pischa Sutta, in the name of another sefer, that says the small masechtas have the same law. You can learn them especially, but you have to understand what you're learning. Yes, can't read the words, you have to learn it. So maybe we'll do a little research and try to, maybe someone will email me and remind me, can you maybe send me a couple Maseches Ketanos? So you can learn a small Masechta. Again, I wouldn't suggest lahalacha, that could get you out of a fast on Erev Pesach. There might be discussions, but certainly to make a siyum, a regular siyum, we're not talking about breaking, not fasting, certainly be a wonderful thing. Again, I wrote Salas, Sudas. If you want to make your meal a Sudas mitzvah at least, Yachaluma Maseches Sittis. What are Maseches Sittis? There's other Maseches Smachas. There's all kinds of small Masechtas, Oshar Masechtas, Ketanas. And these should be the next Art Scroll project. They're doing so many amazing things at Art Scroll. Pick some small Masechtas. That's everybody can do this. You can learn some Masechtas in a number of minutes. Every meal could be a siyum. Whoa! I'm number Erev Pesach again, but Erev Pesach, it should be a bona fide regular Masechta from the Bavli Yerushalmi, and then there's a whole discussion. We're not going to go in now. Okay, last and final footnote, Samach Tes, to have all the meals be a Sudas Mitzvah, Samach Tes. Ela Shetzorach Lihazer Mod, but you're going to be very careful. Sheyilmad Batzvanos, don't learn with depressed, or you feel like you're forced to do it. Only if you have a longing and a joy for it. You enjoy learning Maseches Tzitzis. You enjoy learning other small Masechtas. There's Maseches Derech Eretz, of having Derech, what Derech Eretz means. There's a bunch of those little Masechtas. If you see that learning is weakening you, and it's burning you out, so live it. That's not your level. It's not for you. We already explained, even though you got to work very hard in your service to Hashem, we come up at the end of the day. So we're talking about an effort that's proper for your level. Remember, what's the sign you're doing the right thing? You have inner pleasure. That's what it's about, the inner pleasure. Okay, with this, we end this. I'll just give you a little, since we got a couple minutes, I'll just tell you what next week is all about. Next week, so Baruch Hashem, we've done the introduction. We've done the idea of loving every Jew. We've talked about eating. Now the next subject is called bittul, which is a very difficult word to translate into English. Bittul means literally nullification, like bittul chametz. I nullified the chametz. I made the chametz into nothing. So that's going to be the next topic. It goes on for many, many, many pages of what that area of bittul is. And that's what we're going to be looking for. It's a question. I got a minute or two. I could take a question. Yeah.
It's just, the person I tried to think about to to love him.
Yeah.
And after like 2 days, he never used to sit next to me. He moved from across the shul to sit next to me for a couple of days.
The person you tried to love, he just on his own,
On his own,
decided to
Never happened to
change
you.
his seat and go next to you. So what happened after that?
nothing. I'm saying it was such a nice thing.
Okay,
I found
Baruch
out-
Hashem. Okay, so we're coming up to Shabbos. We should all try to think of an aspect. Try to take both ideas now. Loving another Jew and eating holy on Shabbos. At least try the first thing. Maybe just try for this Shabbos. When you make the bracha on the bread and you're having the size of bread, try when you make the bracha on the bread. And for that first kizayas, just close your eyes, chew it, and see how much Hashem loves you. That will be our homework. And maybe try for each one of the 3 meals for that. Okay, shkayach everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, Zai.
Thank you.